Dr. Amanda Hayes adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform as she stood before the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The gleaming metal surface, etched with the symbols of 1,000 civilizations, seemed to mock Earth's relative youth among the stars. Behind her, Colonel Jack Morrison cleared his throat, a subtle reminder of their practiced strategy. "Ready, Doctor?" he asked, his military bearing never wavering. "As ready as anyone can be when representing 7 billion people," she replied with a slight smile. The doors began their ceremonial opening, ancient mechanisms humming with power that Earth's scientists were still struggling to understand. The council chamber was a testament to alien architecture, a vast amphitheater that stretched up into darkness, so complete it might have been a slice of space itself. Crystalline platforms hosted representatives from hundreds of species, their bodies ranging from the nearly human to the utterly incomprehensible. The air was thick with the mingled scents of various atmospheric requirements, filtered and managed by systems beyond Earth's current understanding. As they walked to the central platform, Amanda noted the reactions of the gathered species. Most barely acknowledged their presence. Humans were, after all, just another primitive species making their first appearance before the council. The Orcs' delegation, however, watched with what she had learned to recognize as predatory interest. High Counselor Zextal of the Orcs rose from his platform, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light in ways that made Amanda's eyes hurt. The Council recognizes the representatives of species 47,291. Designation: human. His translation matrix conveyed in perfect English. You have been summoned to receive terms for your world's integration into the greater galactic community. Amanda stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. The United Earth government appreciates the Council's recognition. We look forward to discussing terms of equal partnership. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the chamber. In the shadows of their ancient alcove, the Valorian observers shifted, their ghostly forms showing the first signs of interest. Zextal's upper limbs clattered in what the human delegation had learned was a sign of impatience. Equal partnership is not being offered. Your species has barely achieved rudimentary space travel. You have no quantum technology, no psychic development, no faster-than-light capabilities. The terms are simple. Earth will submit to Orcs' protection and colonization, or face immediate military action. Colonel Morrison's hand tightened on his ceremonial sword, a deliberate anachronism that the other species had dismissed as primitive decoration. Amanda felt the slight weight of the quantum transmitter in her collar, knowing that everything being said was being analyzed by Earth's best strategists. "I see," Amanda said, maintaining the slight smile that had confused the Valorian xenopsychologists. "And these terms are non-negotiable." "Correct." Zextal's voice carried the weight of thousands of similar conquests. "You have 24 galactic standard hours to submit your acceptance. The Orcs are generous in these matters. Resistance would be most unwise." Amanda exchanged a look with Morrison, a practiced gesture that conveyed volumes. The colonel stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of Earth's combined military history. "We appreciate the Orcs' generous offer," he said, each word carefully measured. "We request the full-time allotment to convey these terms to our government." As they left the chamber, Amanda could feel the dismissive gazes of the council species. Only the Valorians seemed to notice something different about these humans, a confidence that bordered on anticipation. Back in their diplomatic vessel, Morrison finally allowed himself a real smile. "They bought it," he said, activating their secure communications. "Operation Trojan Horse is a go. Alert all commands. We have 24 hours before they learn why humanity never developed those technologies they consider so essential." Amanda nodded, her diplomatic mask falling away to reveal the sharp mind that had helped plan this moment. "They're so focused on what we don't have," she said, They never stopped to consider what we might have instead. Lieutenant Emily Rodriguez watched the holographic display with practiced calm as the Arxos warning fleet crossed Neptune's orbit. The hidden fleet command center, buried deep within Europa's ice, hummed with quiet efficiency. Her teams had drilled for this moment for years, but now it was real. Status report. Admiral James Cooper's voice carried across the command center, steady as ever. 12 Arxos capital ships, sir, Emily responded, her fingers dancing across the haptic interface. They're moving in standard arrowhead formation, just like the simulations predicted. Their sensors are active, but operating at minimum power. They're not expecting any resistance. The Admiral smiled, an expression that would have worried anyone who knew him well. And our assets. Operation Wind Chimes is ready, sir. All platforms report green. Around the solar system, what appeared to be debris from humanity's early space age began receiving encrypted signals. Ancient communication satellites, supposedly dead for decades, powered up their hidden cores. Derelict space stations silently oriented their broken solar panels, and fields of space junk began minute course corrections. The Arxos fleet, led by Squadron Commander Vexthor, approached with the confidence of superior technology. Their quantum sensors showed nothing but primitive radio signals and the expected debris of a young spacefaring race. Their briefing had been clear. This was to be a simple show of force, a demonstration of power to convince the humans to accept their terms. Sir, Emily's voice cut through the tension. They've crossed the Mars threshold, entering optimal engagement range in 3, 2, 1. Admiral Cooper keyed his command channel. All units, execute wind chimes. I say again, execute wind chimes. In space, the first Arxos ship detected something odd. A slight perturbation in their gravitic shields. Squadron Commander Vexthor dismissed it as a sensor ghost, right until the moment their primary drive failed. Multiple hits confirmed, Emily reported, her voice professional, despite the excitement. First wave of kinetic platforms reporting 93% accuracy. Their shields never even detected the carbon fiber projectiles. The Arxos fleet's perfect formation dissolved into chaos. What they had dismissed as random debris revealed itself as a complex web of kinetic kill vehicles, simple projectiles moving at relativistic speeds, guided by the most basic physics that the Arxos advanced sensors had been too sophisticated to notice. Second wave engaging, Emily announced. The old GPS satellites are in position. Supposedly dead satellites, maintained in secret for decades, oriented their failed antenna arrays. Concentrated beams of electromagnetic energy, crude but devastatingly effective, tore through the Arxos ship's secondary systems. Vexthor's frantic commands echoed through their fleet's communications. Evasive action. Full power to forward shields. Return fire on any energy signatures. But there were no energy signatures to target. The humans had built their defenses using technologies so basic that they were invisible to advanced sensors. Each piece of space debris was a potential weapon, each dead satellite a hidden gun. They're attempting to retreat, sir, Emily reported, fighting to keep the satisfaction from her voice. 3 of their capital ships have suffered critical damage. The others are. She never finished the sentence. The derelict International Space Station, its course subtly altered over years of secret adjustments, emerged from Earth's shadow. Its solar panels, lined with simple mirrors, reflected concentrated sunlight directly into the Arxos fleet's sensor arrays. In the crucial seconds of blindness, the final wave of kinetic weapons found their marks. Operation Wind Chimes complete, Emily announced to the silent command center. All enemy ships have been neutralized or have retreated beyond Neptune's orbit. Admiral Cooper nodded slowly, already thinking about the next phase. Send word to Dr. Hayes. Tell her that Earth's response to the Arxos terms has been delivered. He paused, looking at the display showing the retreating signatures of the surviving Orcs ships. And Lieutenant, make sure our friends in the Galactic Council get the full sensor feed. It's time they learned that primitive is a very relative term. Major Michael Thompson stood before the Galactic Council, his dress uniform crisp despite the chamber's alien atmosphere. Behind him, a holographic display showed the devastation of the Orcs' fleet, the images crystal clear thanks to cameras hidden in what the aliens had dismissed as ancient weather satellites. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished others, he began, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who knew they'd already won the most important battle. You're probably wondering how a primitive species managed to destroy half of the Orcs' third fleet. The answer is simple. We never stopped preparing for this day. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated questions. The Valorian representatives leaned forward in their alcove, their ethereal forms rippling with interest. Dr. Rachel Anderson, our chief of xenopsychology, please step forward, Thompson called. A tall woman in a science division uniform joined him at the podium. For decades, we studied every available piece of information about galactic technology, Rachel explained, bringing up new holographic images. We noticed something fascinating. The more advanced a species becomes, the more they rely on quantum sensors and energy shields. They stop looking for simple, physical threats. The images shifted to show what appeared to be ordinary space debris. Everything you see here is part of Earth's defense network. We call it the mechanical advantage, using basic physics in ways your advanced technology simply isn't designed to counter. In their elevated position, the Orcs' representatives chittered angrily. High Counselor Zextel's voice boomed through the translation matrix. You dare to suggest that primitive projectiles and reflected light constitute a valid defense strategy? Thompson smiled. The wreckage of your fleet suggests they do, Counselor. But perhaps a demonstration is in order. He nodded to Rachel, who activated a small device on her wrist. Suddenly, every quantum communication device in the chamber went dead. The Council's advanced environmental systems flickered, and their holographic displays dissolved into static. What you're experiencing, Rachel continued calmly, is the effect of what we call a mechanical resonance field. No quantum technology, no advanced energy manipulation. Just precisely calculated vibrations using principles your scientists considered too basic to study. She deactivated the device, and the chamber's systems returned to normal. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity never developed quantum technology, Thompson explained, because we found better solutions. While you were building better energy shields, we were perfecting ways to bypass them entirely. While you focused on faster-than-light travel, we were converting our entire solar system into a defense grid that your sensors can't even detect. He brought up new images, showing the true nature of Earth's orbital infrastructure. Ancient satellites revealed their hidden weapons. Abandoned space stations displayed concealed energy reflectors. Even the debris fields from old space missions proved to be carefully positioned defensive arrays. Every piece of technology you dismissed as outdated, Rachel added. Every satellite you thought was dead. Every bit of space junk you ignored. They're all part of a defense system we've been building since we first reached space. We knew we weren't alone, and we knew that sooner or later someone would try to conquer Earth. The chamber had fallen silent. Even the usually stoic Valorians showed signs of astonishment. The Orcs made a critical mistake, Thompson concluded, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. They assumed that because we haven't developed certain technologies, we couldn't defend ourselves. They forgot that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. And most importantly, he paused, making eye contact with Zextel. They forgot that humans have been perfecting the art of war since before we discovered fire. As the council chambers erupted in debate, Rachel leaned close to Thompson. "Think they got the message?" "If not," he replied quietly, "the rest of our defensive capabilities should make it crystal clear. After all, we've only shown them the obsolete systems we want them to know about." Captain David Williams stood on the bridge of the U.S. Ghost of Valley Forge, watching the massive Arxos invasion fleet through the ship's quantum-shielded viewport. The stealth destroyer, disguised to look like a crude cargo hauler, drifted silent among the asteroids of the belt. "Status report," he whispered, though the ship's stealth systems would have masked a shout. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, his tactical officer, responded just as quietly. 117 capital ships, sir. They're moving in attack formation, but something's different. They're using overlapping shield configurations we haven't seen before. They learned from last time. Williams nodded. But they still haven't learned enough. Signal the Wolfpack. Execute Operation Thermopylae. Throughout the asteroid belt, what appeared to be mining ships and survey vessels suddenly changed their trajectories. The Arxos fleet, their sensors focused on detecting energy weapons and quantum signatures, completely missed the coordinated movement. High Admiral Kazoth of the Arxos stood proudly on his command deck. "Let them try their primitive tricks again," he announced to his bridge crew. "Our new shield configuration is impenetrable to their kinetic weapons." As if in response, his sensor officer called out in alarm. "Multiple contacts. The asteroids. They're moving." Williams allowed himself a small smile as the first phase began. For decades, Earth had been hollowing out selected asteroids, converting them into what they called space chariots, massive, naturally armored vessels that required no energy shields to survive in space. "All ships, execute Leonidas Protocol," Williams commanded. The Ghost of Valley Forge and her sister ships began their own carefully planned dance, using the asteroids for cover as they launched what appeared to be mining charges. The Arxos fleet's new shields held strong against the initial kinetic impacts, just as they'd been designed to do. But they weren't designed for what came next. "Deploy the Trojans," Williams ordered. The mining charges split open, releasing clouds of what appeared to be simple metal dust. The Arxos shields, calibrated to stop high-velocity projectiles, let the seemingly harmless particles pass right through. "Sir," Martins reported with professional satisfaction, "Phase 2 is complete. The Arxos ships are now carrying an average of 2 tons each of our special delivery." Williams keyed his command channel. "All ships, begin Phase 3. Let's show them why we studied ancient naval warfare." The hollowed asteroids suddenly engaged ancient chemical thrusters, creating a massive cloud of water vapor in space. The Arxos fleet found themselves engulfed in what appeared to be a simple steam cloud. "They're attempting to blind our sensors." Kazoth sneered. "Pathetic. Increase power to the—" He never finished the order. The metal dust that had penetrated their shields was actually a special alloy developed by Earth's scientists. When exposed to the water vapor, it began an aggressive oxidation process. In other words, it started to rust, and fast. "By the ancestors," the Arxos engineering officer cried out. "The rust. It's eating through our hull. Our internal systems are." Throughout the Arxos fleet, ships began to die from the inside out. Their advanced technology, designed to resist energy weapons and quantum attacks, had no defense against simple chemical reactions. "All ships, execute final phase," Williams commanded. The human fleet emerged from their asteroid cover, their primitive projectile weapons now targeting ships with compromised hulls and failing systems. As the battle turned into a rout, Williams received a transmission from Admiral Cooper back at Europa Command. "Excellent work, Captain. The Galactic Council's observers are getting quite an education in human naval tactics." "Thank you, sir," Williams replied, watching another Arxos capital ship break apart under the combined effects of rust and kinetic impacts. Though I think the real credit goes to whoever decided to study ancient sea warfare. After all, what is space combat but naval warfare in 3 dimensions? The ghost of Valley Forge turned to face the remaining Arxos ships, which were now in full retreat. And it seems, Williams added, that the Arxos never learned how to fight submarines. Professor Thomas Bennett walked through the holographic display of human history, his figure casting long shadows in the Galactic Council's archive chamber. The assembled alien representatives watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as scenes from Earth's past played out around them. "You see," he explained, gesturing to a recreation of ancient hunters stalking a mammoth, "humans didn't evolve to be the strongest, fastest, or most naturally armed species on Earth. We evolved to be the most adaptable." The display shifted, showing early humans surviving in environments from Arctic tundra to scorching deserts. While other species on our world specialized, we generalized. We learned to use tools, to create weapons, to adapt our environment, rather than waiting to adapt to it. A Valorian observer floated forward, their ethereal form rippling with interest. "This explains much about your current strategy," they transmitted. "You apply this adaptability to warfare." "Precisely." Bennett nodded, changing the display to show ancient battlefields. "Every major innovation in human history has been driven by 2 things: survival and warfare. When we couldn't match our enemies in strength, we developed better tools. When we couldn't match them in numbers, we created better strategies." The hologram now showed the Battle of Thermopylae, then shifted to Alexander's phalanx, then to Roman legions. Each era taught us something new. The Greeks showed us the power of position and discipline. The Romans taught us logistics and engineering in warfare. In their elevated seats, the Arxos representatives shifted uncomfortably as the display showed their recent naval defeat. "Your point, Professor?" High Counselor Zextol demanded. "My point," Bennett continued, "is that while your species were developing energy weapons and quantum shields, we were learning something far more valuable: how to think around problems we couldn't overpower." He brought up new images, modern space battles where human ships used asteroid fields like ancient army used forests for cover. Every tactic we use in space has been refined through thousands of years of surface combat. That maneuver that destroyed your Third Fleet, it was adapted from a naval strategy used by the British against the Spanish Armada in 1588. The chamber grew silent as Bennett showed more examples. Human ships using modified Viking shield wall formations, spacecraft implementing Mongol horse archer tactics, asteroid bases arranged like Roman marching camps. "But the real advantage," he continued, his voice growing passionate, "isn't just our military history. It's our cultural memory of being the underdog. Humans have always excelled at finding ways to defeat supposedly superior forces." The display changed again, showing the timeline of human space development. When we first reached space, we knew we weren't alone. We knew that sooner or later, we'd meet more advanced species, so we did what humans always do. We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. A hologram of Earth's solar system appeared, showing the full extent of human defense preparations. Every piece of technology we developed was designed with double purpose. Yes, we really needed weather satellites and communication arrays, but we also made sure they could serve as weapons if needed. And the reason your quantum sensors can't detect our defenses. Bennett smiled. We deliberately avoided developing certain technologies because we knew they would be expected. Instead, we focused on perfecting the basics: physics, chemistry, mechanics, the principles that your advanced technology often overlooks. The Valorian representative moved closer to the display. "You deliberately remained technologically primitive as a strategy." "Not primitive," Bennett corrected. "Focused. We knew we couldn't match advanced species in their areas of expertise, so we mastered the fundamentals they'd forgotten. After all, he added, looking directly at the Arxos delegation, the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the best weapons. It's the one who knows how to turn anything into a weapon. Catherine Miller stood in the diplomatic section of the Galactic Council station, watching the massive holographic display that showed the current state of known space. The Arxos territory, once proudly displayed in brilliant red, now flickered with uncertainty as more and more systems began declaring their independence. Quite a show, isn't it? Admiral James Cooper said, joining her at the window. 3 days ago, the Arxos were demanding our surrender. Now they're struggling to keep their own empire from crumbling. Catherine nodded, her eyes fixed on the changing map. The data package we released did exactly what we expected. Every species they've protected over the last century is now questioning their dominance. The door chimed, and Dr. Amanda Hayes entered, carrying a secure data tablet. The Valorians have made their decision, she announced, her voice carefully neutral despite the magnitude of the news. The 3 humans gathered around a private conference table as Amanda activated the tablet's holographic display. Ancient Valorian script floated in the air, alongside its English translation. They're publicly endorsing Earth's defensive innovations, Catherine read, her eyes widening. In their entire history, they've never taken a side in a military conflict. Read the next part, Amanda suggested, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. Admiral Cooper let out a low whistle. They're offering to host a joint military training program. The Valorians actually want to learn from us. Not just the Valorians, Catherine added, scrolling through the document. 17 other species have already signed on. They're calling it the Earth Doctrine of Adaptive Defense. Even some of the Arxos client states are requesting access. The station's massive window offered a view of the latest Arxos diplomatic vessel arriving. Unlike their previous visits, this one showed no signs of military escort. The once proud empire was learning the hard way that technology alone didn't guarantee power. High Counselor Zextal is demanding an emergency session, Amanda reported, checking her diplomatic feed. Apparently, they have evidence that we've been secretly supplying their vassals with military technology. Catherine allowed herself a small smile. They still don't get it, do they? We haven't given anyone our technology. We've simply shown the galaxy that advanced technology isn't everything. A subtle vibration ran through the station as the Valorian delegation's ship docked. Unlike their usually secretive arrivals, this one was being broadcast on all channels. The ancient species had decided to make a statement. Director Miller, a junior diplomat, called from the door. The Centaurian ambassador requests an immediate meeting. They're offering trade rights, and he paused, double-checking his notes, and they want to know if Earth would consider a military alliance. Tell them to join the coup, Catherine replied, studying the ever-changing map. We've got similar requests from half the independent systems in this sector. Admiral Cooper moved to leave, then paused. You know what the best part is? The Arxos are so focused on finding our secret advanced technology that they still haven't realized the truth. And what truth is that, Admiral? Amanda asked, though they all knew the answer. That we've given the galaxy something far more dangerous than new weapons, he said, watching as another section of Arxos space changed color on the map. We've given them ideas. Catherine nodded, finally turning away from the display. The Arxos built their empire on the assumption that advanced technology meant automatic superiority. We didn't just prove them wrong. We showed everyone else how to do it too. As if to emphasize her point, another alert flashed across the display. 3 more systems had just declared their independence from the Arxos, using tactics eerily similar to Earth's own defensive strategies. The galaxy's about to change, Amanda observed. And for once, it's not because of some new quantum technology or energy weapon. No, Catherine agreed, watching as the Valorian representatives glided into the council chamber. It's changing because we reminded everyone of something very simple. The most powerful weapon in the universe has always been the mind that wields it. Commander Jessica Parker watched from the bridge of the U.S. Thermopylae as the massive Arxos superweapon emerged from hyperspace. The vessel, nearly the size of Earth's moon, cast a shadow across space itself, its hull crackling with enough energy to shatter planets. "Well," she said to her bridge crew, "looks like they finally brought out their big guns." Status report. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, her tactical officer, studied his displays. "The weapon's exactly what our intelligence suggested, Commander. It's a quantum cascade device, designed to trigger a chain reaction in a planet's core. They're positioning it just outside Mars' orbit." Jessica nodded, her expression calm despite the stakes. "And Operation Dead Hand." "All assets are in position," Marcus confirmed. "Just waiting for your command." The massive Arxos vessel began its final approach, its intent clear. They meant to make an example of Earth. After losing their empire to a wave of rebellions inspired by human tactics, the Arxos had decided on a final desperate solution. Supreme Warlord Cathax's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Attention, primitive species. Your interference in galactic affairs ends today. Surrender immediately, or watch your world burn." Jessica keyed her comm. "This is Commander Parker of the Earth Defense Force. I see you've brought a rather impressive ship. Tell me, did you remember to check for termites?" There was a pause in the transmission. "Your primitive attempts at humor cannot save you now. This weapon cannot be stopped by your simple tricks. Its shields are quantum-based," Jessica interrupted. "Just like all your technology. You know, that's the problem with advanced civilizations. You never look down." She nodded to Marcus. "Execute Dead Hand. All phases. Across the solar system. Carefully hidden devices activated." They weren't advanced technology, just simple mechanical oscillators, each one tuned to a specific frequency. Alone, they were harmless. Together, "Sir," an Arxos officer's panicked voice cut through the command channel. "We're detecting vibrations throughout the hull. The quantum matrix is..." The massive superweapon began to shudder. The quantum fields that held its structure together started to resonate at their natural frequency, a principle so basic that the Arxos had never considered defending against it. "Fun fact about quantum fields," Jessica transmitted casually. "They're actually quite fragile if you know their resonant frequency. Simple physics, really. The kind of thing a primitive species would study." The Arxos vessel's shields, designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic impacts, did nothing to prevent the simple vibrations that were now tearing it apart from the inside. "All ships," Jessica commanded, "begin Phase 2. The Earth fleet emerged from hidden positions, but they weren't firing weapons. Instead, they released clouds of what appeared to be ordinary iron filings. Another primitive solution that the Arxos' advanced sensors barely registered. "Your pathetic attempts are futile," Cathax snarled, though his voice now held a note of uncertainty. "This vessel cannot be destroyed by advanced weapons." Jessica finished for him. "We know. That's why we're not using any. You see, those iron filings are entering your ship through the gaps created by the resonance effect. And in about 10 seconds, she didn't need to finish. The iron particles, specially treated with a classified earth chemical compound, began to react with the Arxos ship's quantum core. The result was spectacular and catastrophic for the superweapon. "That's the thing about being primitive," Jessica explained as she watched the massive vessel begin to break apart. "You learn to solve problems with whatever tools you have available. Sometimes, the simplest solutions are the most elegant." The superweapon's core finally breached, not with a devastating explosion, but with a series of small, cascading failures that reduced the most powerful weapon in the galaxy to nothing more than orbiting debris. "Command," Jessica reported, unable to keep a note of satisfaction from her voice. "Operation Dead Hand is complete. The threat has been neutralized. And sir, I think we just wrote the final chapter in the Arxos Empire's history book." She turned to her crew, pride evident in her expression. "Let's head home, people. I think the galaxy's finally getting the message about threatening Earth." General Robert Harrison stood before the assembled Galactic Council, the ceremonial sword at his hip now, carrying a very different meaning than it had just months ago. The chamber, once filled with dismissive alien species, now watched him with rapt attention. "The document before you," he began, his voice carrying through the vast space, "is what we're calling the Earth Protocol. It represents not just a new military doctrine, but a new understanding of what true strength means in our galaxy." The holographic display behind him showed scenes from the recent conflicts, Earth's innovative defenses, the defeat of the Arxos fleet, and finally, the destruction of their superweapon through elegantly simple means. "For too long," he continued, "the galaxy has equated advanced technology with superiority. The fall of the Arxos Empire has proven this assumption not just wrong, but dangerously misguided." In their crystalline alcove, the Valorian representatives glowed with approval. Their spokesperson's voice resonated through the chamber. "We have watched countless species rise and fall, each believing their technical achievements made them invincible. Humanity has shown us a different path." Admiral Cooper, standing behind Harrison, stepped forward with a data crystal. "This contains the first module of Earth's new military education program. We're calling it Fundamental Warfare, not because it's basic, but because it returns to the fundamentals that many have forgotten." The display changed to show the first classes already in session. Alien officers from 17 species learning alongside human instructors, studying everything from ancient Roman legion tactics to modern space combat innovations. "But this is about more than just military strategy," Harrison explained. "It's about changing how we think about technology and progress. The Earth Protocol establishes new guidelines for balanced development, advancing not just in one direction, but in all directions." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber as the display showed the remains of the Arxos superweapon, a testament to the folly of relying too heavily on any single advantage. "As of today," Harrison announced, "Earth's solar system is being designated as a protected zone. Not because we need the protection, but because we've proven we can protect ourselves. More importantly, we're establishing the Earth Defense Academy, open to all species who wish to learn our methods." The chamber erupted in appreciative chatter. Already, hundreds of worlds had applied for training slots, eager to learn the principles that had brought down an empire. "The Arxos made a critical mistake," Harrison continued, his voice taking on a teacher's tone. "They assumed that because we hadn't developed certain technologies, we were inferior. Instead, we had chosen a different path, one that proved far more powerful than they could imagine." Catherine Miller, now Earth's chief diplomatic officer, stepped forward to present the final section of the protocol. "This document also establishes new trade routes, cultural exchange programs, and scientific collaborations, because the greatest lesson we can teach isn't about warfare, it's about balance." The voting began, and the result was unanimous. The Earth Protocol was ratified, marking a new chapter in galactic history. As the session concluded, Harrison found himself approached by a young Arxos diplomat, one of the few who had survived their empire's collapse. "My people were wrong about yours," the diplomat admitted. "We thought we were teaching the galaxy about power. Instead, you taught us about wisdom." Harrison smiled, resting his hand on the ancient sword that had once been dismissed as ceremonial. "The strongest warriors aren't the ones with the best weapons," he said, repeating words that had been passed down through generations of Earth's military history. They're the ones who know how to use whatever weapons they have. As the council chamber emptied, the Great Seal of Earth was added to the wall of major powers, a simple design among complex alien scripts. But now everyone understood. Sometimes, the simplest things were the most powerful. The galaxy had a new rule, written not in advanced technology or quantum physics, but in the timeless principles that humanity had never forgotten. Never threaten Earth, because they'll always find a way to win.